Hello, everyone, and welcome to the 14th episode of Business Standards Dialogue. Today, we are discussing a subject that is of great interest to everybody: children, youngsters, teachers, parents, policymakers. All of us are very interested in whether we should ban social media for children. And we have a very, very strong panel here with us to look at this issue from all possible angles. A very warm welcome to all of you. I'd like to welcome Dr. Manoj Kumar Sharma. He is Professor Clinical Psychology, NIMHANS, National Institute of Mental Health and Neurosciences. We have with us Dr. Urvashi Sahni. She is the President and CEO of Study Hall Educational Foundation, a Brookings Fellow and Ashoka Fellow, and a well-known social entrepreneur. Welcome, Dr. Sahni. We have with us Mr. Kazim Rizvi, Founding Director of the Dialogue, not the Business Standard Dialogue, but the public policy think tank, the Dialogue. And we have with us Business Standards, Aashish, Aryan. A very warm welcome to all of you, and thank you so much for joining us. So what I was thinking is that before I ask questions pointed to your specific areas, if we can go around the panel and ask everyone to very briefly tell us that should India restrict children's access to smartphones and social media? What do you think? Yes, no, maybe? Dr. Sharma, why don't we start with you?
Definitely, I think if we look at from the development perspective, as well as in terms of users pattern and its impact. So I think the first thing which always comes is we have to build up the preparedness of the young children and adolescents. When I'm saying preparedness, it includes how much is too much, when to use, and what would be my social media safety measures and all.
All right.
So if this sort of preparedness comes up, then I think it's better they will also plan that I can restrict or I can need control environment.
All right. Dr. Sahni, what do you think? Do we need to ban?
Are you talking about a government ban?
Yes,
right?
yes.
You know, I'm not a fan of banning overall. No, but let me put the caveat.
Yeah.
Already too many things banned right now.
Yes.
But and too much censorship right now. Okay. At the same time, I'm thinking of the vulnerable who need to be protected, and I am a fan of having laws that will protect the weak. And I'm giving you an example from women. Now, there was a time we didn't have laws against domestic violence. We didn't have laws against child marriage. And we do now. We still don't have a law against marital rape, big downer. But so we still have child marriage. We still have domestic violence. We still have dowry. But at the same time, are we grateful that there are laws? Yes. As an activist, I can tell you, we use those laws all the time, because when you can kind of wave them around and say the police will come and get you. It's used as a negotiating tool. It's used in several ways and misused sometimes, but more or less, mostly used. So while I'm not a fan of banning, and since you asked a very quick answer, I'll stay with the maybe, because I think it has value. There are many pros, there are many cons. I don't even know how they'll enforce it, really. Maybe someone can shed light on that. But at the same time, do we need a policy about social media for very young children? We should, because it's just as addictive as drugs.
Yeah.
We have a policy of that, and almost as harmful. So then why not with this?
We will delve into a lot of these very important points you've very quickly touched upon. Very quickly, Mr. Rizvi, what do you think?
Mr. Rizvi,
Yeah, hi. Thank you. Thank you so much, Ruchika. No, look, I think I agree with Urvashi ji. I'm also not in favor of any bans. I don't think bans work because if you are saying that we should ban social media platforms for kids, we know that kids will just move to more irregular platforms and they may start using platforms which are not as properly organized and the way you have these large social media platforms and the safety features and the process they built in, a lot of the unknown social media platforms don't do enough for child protection or for online safety, and so we will risk moving kids to lesser safe platforms, and I don't think we can do that, and we shouldn't. Which is why I'm not in favor of a ban. What I do feel is that we can work towards, age appropriation
Hmm.
when it comes to children and when it comes to their access to social media.
Hmm.
And we can define certain limits and we can define certain, thresholds when it comes to access to social media by children.
All
But a
right.
blanket ban is something which I'm not in favor of, and I think this is a conversation which will not move anywhere, because if we are really serious about safety and protecting children, then we need to put in processes, and we need the government and the social media platforms and the civil society to work towards a whole of society approach,
Yes.
basically, where you start placing processes in place, you demonstrate as a platform that you're doing enough and more to safeguard children
Yes,
on their
Mr. Rizvi.
platform. Right?
We
So I
will
think
get
that,
into the details as we proceed with the discussion, but we do understand now what each panelist is thinking, and of course, pros and cons are there. My first question is to Dr. Sharma. Let's try to understand what is the trend that you are seeing in children and in adolescents. Are there things like anxiety and depression and such disorders because of social media?
Basically, I think most of our children and adolescents do suffer from fear of missing out something. And the fear of missing out something is more because of peer recommendations. And since social media also provide a platform where a lot of things are happening, so they wanted to remain connected and they want to get all the updated information, whatever is happening on social media platform. That's why I think most of the children, when they seek treatment also, they want one advice from the doctor that let it be with the mobile phone and the social media till my all friends are active on social media platform. So sometimes it brings dysfunction in terms of sleep pattern. And second thing, because of we have to focus on social media literacy, since social media literacy is not there, and they also don't know how to face rejection and how to face the negative comments. So sometimes when they come across these kind of things, and since they don't have any uh, person in offline world with whom they can discuss in confined, so they sometimes get disturbed. It brings minor psychological issues, which can be depression and which can be anxiety also. But this is as a result of the way they handle social media. Sometimes because children have vulnerabilities,
Hmm.
maybe because they are using social media as a way of coping,
Hmm.
because they don't have many friends, and that social media helps them to connect. Or sometimes they have found themselves less expressive. Social media allow them that platform to express themselves. Or there could be other reasons also. Sometimes because of psychological vulnerabilities also, they
Hmm.
manifest excessive use of social media.
Dr. Sahni, what are you seeing? Is smartphone becoming a distractive tool in education, or I'm sorry, a distraction or an educative tool in education? How is learning behavior changing? And to Dr. Sharma's point, is there a role for schools now to educate children in these aspects?
I'll take the last one first. There's definitely a place for schools. In fact, we actively work at it. There's a great space for, schools wield influence. And in our school, we have critical dialogues every week on many issues. And this is a very important one because, to Dr. Sharma's point, children are going into depression and anxiety. They're continuously concerned about their peer opinion. So how many likes did I get? Oh, what happened? And then they are manipulated because there's a lot of bullying on social media. There's a lot of shaming on that. And they don't know how to protect themselves. Half the time they don't tell each other. They don't tell their parents. Parents don't like it, but many parents don't even understand the negative impact of it. So schools have a place, one, in putting into place digital literacy and especially social media literacy. One. Two, where also to educate parents in many cases, all right, that how do you protect your children from it and how addicted are you to it, all right? What is the trend I'm seeing? The trend I'm seeing is, as a school, let me finish the school part first, that also in school we ban computers of any kind. You can't do it. There's no way. I mean, we can confiscate mobiles if they bring it, not computers, sorry, mobile phones.
Mobiles.
And we have smart boards, but only the teachers control that. So they use the internet very judiciously. Is it an educative tool? YouTube is. I don't know that, and Instagram, if it is for that. But though, we don't permit that either. You use YouTube, that is allowed, and not more than that. And in fact, now we're educating children how to use AI as well. Because AI is the latest threat, by the way. Now social media is almost becoming old hat.
Passe, yeah.
With parents, the way first they need to be made aware that it's not as harmless as it looks, that it's very harmful. And I know of parents where they're filming their small children as young as 3 and 4 and putting it on Instagram, then showing it to their children. And very soon the children will start doing that. Now they're going to clamor, put me, how many people have liked me, how many people, and come on, 4-year-olds. So how much are parents addicted to it? Older siblings. The trend is more. Now it's going lower. The age is going lower and lower. We can't control what happens at home. But, and because if parents are on it, mothers are on it, then what do you expect? But the older they are, the more they use it, or to be on Instagram, to be on Facebook. They use it as a way to spread information, which is the good way of it, but depending on what kind of information. And they use it to get validation. Being an influencer is the big thing now. And so many of them are aiming at that. So I think schools have a huge role to play. At the same time, we have them for 6 or 7 hours. Parents have them much longer. And parents can undo everything we do if they are not on the same page. So parents definitely need to be educated on the harmful effects of social media.
As a parent myself, I would come back to what a parent should do. But before that, let me get Mr. Rizvi. How practical is a ban in India? Especially you talked of age appropriation. So how do you do something like that while safeguarding privacy concerns? What do you think?
Okay, so I'll take the first question with respect to how practical is a ban. And I think if you look at tech sectors, I mean, if you look at bans in general, we've seen, for example, the alcohol ban in Bihar. It doesn't work, right? We've seen bans of different kinds across the country in the past as well. It's very easy when it comes to technology that you will ban social media, let's say, for a specific age group. And there are ways that they can access those websites and those applications through their parents, through adults in the household. There are ways to circumvent the bans. You have VPN, etc. So it's not very difficult for children, and we know how smart they are, especially the current crop is when it comes to being able to use social media, even though it may be banned for them, right? So I don't think bans will work. I think what we need is to have, let's say, some sort of age appropriation when it comes to using social media. And this can, of course, it's not easy, because if it was implementable, then it would have been done by now. I think the challenge will remain in how do you determine which child is what age, and how do you verify? Like, verification is not going to be easy for children, for the platforms to do when it comes to, okay, is this 14, 15, 16? So I think that's something which is not an easy task. But that doesn't mean that, we should not work towards it. I think the underlying conditions of what generates harm cannot be addressed by bans, because you have, children who can use anonymous websites, messaging platforms, gaming communities. You have anonymous forums as well. So it's not just social media. There's a bigger world on the internet outside social media. So while you will ban social media, there are other forums and applications, and have these big gaming communities now where children are there. So that is also something which we have to worry about. So then are we talking about an internet ban? And we cannot have an internet ban for a specific age group. If you ban certain websites, certain apps, they will move on to the lesser apps. And the world of social media, if you talk about the big companies, they still have certain processes and safety features, but there are many applications
which don't do anything at all to protect children from harms. So I think it's a very tricky territory to walk towards. I think what we need to work towards is age appropriation, age restrictions. I think that could work, but that is not an easily implementable tool because of safety, privacy, and I think verification process. So I think there has to be some process which we need to look into. Age assurance, of course, has to be developed and looked into, but let's see how that goes. But the method has to be proportionate. The level of risk has to be measured. What are the identity documents that you will use? Are you going to use facial age, facial biometrics? Are you going to use behavior inferences to sort of verify the age of the children? So there's a lot to uncover.
There's a lot to uncover, yes. At this point, if I can get my colleague Aashish. Aashish, recently Secretary Meti had said that government is looking at regulating the digital space for children. You have extensively covered the Data Protection Act as well. Can you tell us what is actually happening on that front and what systems exist in current regulations to protect children?
Absolutely. Thanks, Ruchika. So even in the DPDP Act, if you read through the Act, and I think Kazim would agree here, that there are protections for children, and in the sense that they have to, for all users below the age of 18, they have to sort of go and get a verifiable parental consent before they can log on to these platforms. And like Kazim mentioned, that despite having these checks and balances in processes, or despite having these checks and balances in the law, it is very difficult to implement on them on ground because of two major reasons mostly. One is the ease with which these documents, so-called documents, can be abused. Second, it's very, very difficult for any government to implement, or any social media intermediary really, to implement these on ground, because it's so easy to bypass them, especially in a country that is as digitally savvy as ours. So while there are safeguards both in the DPDP Act and otherwise also for children, one really needs to see on what are the other measures that need to be taken. Both Secretary Krishnan and the Minister Vaishnav has also said, they have said that the time has come for India to look at regulating social media usage for children. But that is easier said than done. One side of the argument is that. The other side of the argument is that the regulations that have worked in, let's say, in Australia or a UK or a France may not work in India. So we need to think of a different model that will be implementable here. So yeah, that's the current status.
I'm
If I
sure.
could,
Yes.
I could come just one point, Ruchika. I think we also have to be mindful that children use shared devices as well.
Yes, exactly.
Right? And many of them will not have consistent, documentation to identify. Then we also need to account for children living in places where there is a different level of digital literacy, right? Then you have India, such a diverse country. You have so many different languages, different connectivities in different parts of the country, in rural towns, in villages. How will a sort of a process of age assurance will work? So I think these are some of the limitations as well, which we have to work towards. But I think just to second Ashish's point, and I think on privacy, any age assurance framework, if it comes, which I believe can be a step forward to safeguard children, should minimize data collection, right? It should prohibit commercial abuse, data retention, and of course, it should be limited to the purpose for which you're collecting data. You have to have meaningful correction and appeal mechanisms built in to this framework as well. It has to apply to different demographic aspects of the country.
Absolutely.
So yeah, it's not an easy task, but I think there's a task we can work towards.
As pointed out by Dr. Sahni and Dr. Sharma as well, parents are a big part of this puzzle. As a parent myself, I'd be very interested to knowing from both of you. First, Dr. Sharma, that what are some of the practical things that need to be done? Are there some healthy guidelines we need to put in place? What do parents need to do? What will be your advice? Because a lot of our viewers also right now would be struggling with this conundrum.
I think the first thing we have to be very sensitive and pay attention to is the engagement part. Because I think children and adolescents found online platform very engaging, and they found it gives them a lot of experience. So I think in case if you have to plan in terms of healthy or responsible use of technology, we have to build up offline engaging activities, offline good experience activities, which can everybody, family can plan for themselves. That's the one thing which we have to work on. In terms of what family can do, I think first thing definitely, I think we can summarize in 4 Ds. The first D stands for digital literacy, which includes social media literacy also, where family can build up some time and some moments to discuss about do's and don'ts of technology use, and which will also come if case family is spending quality time, because what we are losing out in most of the family is quality family time, because sparing 30-40 minutes for a quality time is a struggle, but spending same amount of time on scrolling mobile phone is an easy task. So I think this sort of role modeling is happening. It has to be addressed. So digital literacy is the first component. Second thing comes up of in terms of digital hygiene. Like generally, children will be with the technology, but we have to take care of their physical health. We have to take care of their musculoskeletal health also. So I think they generally guidelines comes every 30-40 minutes of screen use. They should take a brief break, which may just involve blinking their eyes so that eyes strain can go off. Move their head forward, backward, right, left, so the neck strain will go off. And move both wrists clockwise and anti-clockwise, so that again tennis elbow and other issues will go up. So I think these sort of things can be minimized. Second thing which comes up is in terms of all of us have developed a habit of watching in the families, binge watching also. We finish number of episodes in one sitting only. If adults are doing, child will also follow. And sometimes they say, adults say we negotiated that today we will watch for some episode together. So I think that way what we are building up is a wrong learning in the child. And in case adults can also avoid binge watching, the criteria goes more than 3 episodes if they're watching in one sitting, or more than 120 minutes of screen used for recreational purpose. If that is happening, they should take a break so that they should not meet that criteria. Third thing as a part of digital hygiene comes is physical activities. I think all families should encourage 40 to 60-minute physical activities also, because if you go with World Health Organization recommendation, they also say below 5 years, quality it should be less screen time, more quality time and physical activity time. Again, 6 to 11 years, again they say 1 hour quality screen time, rest time should be spent in family and physical activity. And again, after 11, we can negotiate. So this kind of guidelines has to follow as a part of digital hygiene. Other technique which we generally recommend to most family, which we call digital fasting. Family should bring 30-40 minutes screen-free period in the family context, that they should use it. And the last technique which all families will find useful is, most of the families struggle with sleep pattern, regulation of sleep pattern. To manage that, there is a technique called digital sunset. Digital sunset means how to regulate your sleep. It says, schedule your sleep time. 5 hours before sleep time, have physical activities. 4 hours before sleep time, have last drink of the day, whatever you take. 3 hours before sleep time, have your quality family time. 2 hours before sleep time, have dinner and whatever food you, and 1 hour before sleep time, minimize your screen use. So 4 days if family works on, I think the adult screen use will also get regulated, because what we are seeing in Bangalore context, 8 to 12 hours adults are also using screen for professional or recreational purpose. So that way they work on evening time. Evening time is the time where most of the families and members are engaged in screen use. So if they work on 5 steps, definitely family quality of life will improve, and children will also learn good habits.
Thank you, Dr. Sharma. Dr. Sahni, same question to you. You have said that parents can undo all the work we do. What can we do as parents? And what do you think can schools also do to educate parents better?
Yeah. So one, let me use drugs as an example, right? In America, there's a big move to legalize drugs. And the argument for that is that even though it was illegal, drugs have proliferated. In fact, they went underground, they were criminalized. So it led to cartels, it led to all kinds of criminal activity, actually. And many young children were caught dealing. They thought the easy way to make money, etc. All the bad things that started happening with that. I, at one time, was a strong opponent of legalizing drugs. And then I thought about it. And in fact, I spoke to many people. And the argument there was that, see, you have tried making it illegal and banning it, and yet it hasn't had the desired effect. All right. What does save children is when parents have a strong relationship with them, and when they can talk to them regularly and actually walk them through the ill effects of it. Through example, through movies, through just conversations, right? That's what finally works. And even schools, understanding the menace of it, taking it seriously and taking the time to walk them through this. And with examples of what has gone wrong with many places. That's how we do it. We have workshops. We also have workshops for parents that, hey, let's put you through what really is going on with it. That we should not take it lightly. It's as bad an addiction as drug addiction. And actually, my saying is that in this digital age, we are now in the digital age, we should take all digital behaviors, good and bad, very seriously. And we should treat them like we have done so far with all kinds of, like with drugs, for example, with alcohol, for example, movies.
Yeah.
There's a adult sign.
Yes.
There's a parental
guidance
sign. All right. Now, parents should be following those, by the way. If they don't, then who's to blame? Because they've been done with a certain thing. And sometimes I know that parents do take them, but then they sit with them, they use it to talk them through many things. Right? Research has also shown that cohesive families, and I think Dr. Sharma was saying, that cohesive families have less of a problem than families that are dysfunctional or where parents don't really have much time. And in this fast-pacing world, high inflation, both parents need to work. And we are talking now about white-collar people. No. What about the labor where they have no choice but have to have both people work? Children are vulnerable to so many things. There are bastis here where there's nobody at home at all. So there's that menace and then there's this menace. But the same thing applies to middle-class parents where they both have to work. There isn't parental supervision. And then there is all of this peer pressure that is going.
Of course.
You know what we also do? We get, and I think that's a good thing that schools should do, that I think this is what we did. We created a task force for AI, for example. You know, with that too, there are good uses and bad uses, and schools should get on top of that and find the regulation. So I said, instead of imposing these, I put together a student task force of 17, 18-year-olds. I said, let's say how you use it, how are people using it, what's the trend, and they tell you. Then we talked through what was good, what was bad. I said, why don't you work on it and come out with a set of guidelines of do's and don'ts? So they did, and they did a very good job of it. And then I said, all right, now pitch it to your own peers. And they did that. They presented, they tried to, I said, you have to convince them. Then I'll make it a policy. Now, even with this, I can see it working very well, and we do that let's get the students. And normally, by the way, they're much sterner than we are. Their guidelines are much tougher.
Okay.
And say, all right, you know what's going on, and we can help you see through what goes wrong. And you're seeing it with your friends, you're seeing it with yourself. So tell me what's a good use, what's a bad use? Because see, if you want to buy in, then it's best to treat students with respect as autonomous beings. Now I'm again talking about older teens. Younger teens too. But always follow the leader. They're more likely to follow their older siblings than they are to their parents.
Yes.
Right? So when that happens, we do it even with our junior school. We teach them, of course, but at the same time, we get them to see where it goes wrong. And what the dangers are. So we have to use a multi-pronged approach. I think there have to be regulations, just like there is for everything else.
All right.
Treat it like that. And then there's to be education, so that there is certain behaviors that need to be changed. Only you motivate them to change it. You educate them to change it. And then there has to be a student-led approach.
Student-led approach.
What's going on in Delhi right now.
Yes.
Very powerful students, okay?
Power.
So,
student-led approach. But let me get Mr. Rizvi at this point. What is the responsibility that the social media platforms have to bear in all this?
I think they are at the center of this storm, and I think social media platforms have to demonstrate that they're doing enough and more to keep children safe on their platforms. Like, and so when we talk about safety, what do we mean by safety, right? It's not just that you're not exposed to harms, or you're not exposed to, let's say, problematic content. I think it's also important to demonstrate that the grievance redressal mechanism is smooth enough for them to raise complaints and seek action and seek remedies, right? Children should feel safe to use social media with their parents as well, right? So the content they are accessing is very important. The kind of content which is being pushed to the children through the algorithms is very, very important. And a lot has been discussed around the fact that, content and the access to content, and what kind of content they're getting, may not be the most appropriate content for children and their mental health. But I think at this also, along with this, this urge and this need to use social media, and we've seen enough research studies which talk about digital addiction becoming a problem. The fact that children are spending a lot of time on social media. By the way, I have, I have two nephews and a niece, and they don't use social media. We don't sort of, they're very young, 10, 12-year olds, right? So I think it's also important for parents and caregivers to determine at what stage would it be healthy for a child to be on social media. But we cannot confuse social media with the internet. And I think that distinction is very difficult to drive, because we also know that if we start restricting access to platforms or to social media at large, the advantages which they can get in terms of being aware, or using social media for good, or even using internet for their own education purposes, that is something which we cannot impact and dilute as well. So the platforms have a lot to do. I think platforms have to continue to demonstrate that they're doing enough to ensure that kids are feeling safe online, and age-based appropriation is important, because depending on the age of the user of the platform, the algorithms are pushing content which is healthy for that age gap. Now, who decides what kind of content should children access, right? That's something which as a society, I don't know if that is our job. Uh, I remember in the 1990s, we just got access to cable TV, and there was a lot of pushback from society at large that why are kids watching TV, etc. It will harm them, it will do many things. I think, we saw that tide over a period of time, and, things are okay. But this is a different problem. The problem of social media is the amount and barrage of content is huge. It's overwhelming, right? Because you're getting content from so many people and so much volume is there that it's very hard to switch off. So I think we have to work with social media platforms to enable and to bring, sort of do workshops. And I think schools have a big responsibility here to teach responsible use of social media. And parents should have limits that, okay, this is how much you can use, and that's it. Right? I mean, we have to come up with some sort of self-regulatory model for parents and teachers.
Teachers as well.
Coding that into a law will not work.
Okay. We have only 10 minutes left. We have some audience questions as well. But before that, I would like to open the floor to Aashish. If you would like to ask any question to any of our panelists, please, this is the time.
Right. So my question probably to Dr. Sharma or Dr. Sahni, either one can take, and then maybe I'll come to Kazim also. But one of the major points that has been raised again and again is that when we are regulating, let's say, social media for Gen Alpha or Gen Z, etc., why is their voice not being heard in how the internet should be regulated for them, or how the social media should be regulated for them? And this is one of the aspects that was raised even by kids in Australia and the UK. So, maybe we can start with Dr. Sharma and then go to Dr. Shani on how should that approach be taken by the government? And then Kazim can pitch in.
Yes, please keep your responses very short because we want to take two audience questions as well. And we have
Thank
10
you,
minutes.
Aashish, for raising this important point. And I can share my experience. We are working with, in Karnataka, we are working on draft policy for responsible use of technology. And I think as a part of this policy, we have also taken steps to take the feedback of students also. So that because they are going to be affected, so their perspective, their opinions needs to be included, whatever the recommendation we makes for the use,
Correct.
restrictive use or ban. I think so. That I think they are the main stakeholder has to be addressed.
Yeah.
Dr. Kani.
Yeah, I think I already answered that actually, saying that as a school, we definitely, in fact, we get them to set the guidelines. And you're right, Aashish, that I mean, they are the ones we are talking about. So why aren't we taking their opinion? And I'll tell you, I have such faith in young people. If we put it to them, I will tell you they will come out with the best and most practical kinds of guidelines. They are really victims of this. They're not going out to these they're being pushed into it because of the age that we are in. And so and I think if you can make them aware of the dangers, and again, through dialogue, and then get them to come up with sets of, and what should happen, what should the internet do, what should government do, what should they do, they will come up with a very good set of sensible rules. So I'm all
Right.
for it. We
Right.
should be taking their opinion on many things which we talk.
Absolutely. Kazim, if you could also pitch in with the what should be the policy approach, especially.
So I think, Ashish, two things. One is debating and discussion and consultation on an age appropriation design code for the use of social media by teenagers and by kids, and then generally just looking at different age assurances methods. Not looking at bans. I think France is moving ahead with its ban. Let's see how that works out. But definitely not getting inspired by the Europeans on this issue. The IT Act is strong enough, I think, to deal with harms. But I think what we need is we need government and platforms to work even more closely, and for platforms to demonstrate that they have systemic processes inbuilt to deal with the harms related to children on social media. That assurance needs to be, on year-on-year basis. And we need tools, regular updation of tools of platforms to deal with harms and to
Right.
demonstrate that to the policymakers, based on which, the government can sort of move ahead with, ensuring that children are safe online. I think I totally agree with your point that we need kids to be part of this discussion as well. I do strongly believe that the concerned parties and the affected constituents have to be part of the consultation process, because they are the ones who are using the social media, they are the ones who are using the internet. So getting them to discuss and debate is important. But I think an age appropriation design, age assurance design code would be a good step forward. Figuring out a privacy respecting method to verify the age, and then having the content which is being accessed by these kids of different age gaps, putting them in a sort of a band, and then saying this is the age gap, so this is the kind of content we should sort of push to them. It'll be hard to determine and objectively define that, but I think what we want is lesser and lesser harmful content being exposed to the kids.
Correct.
And them feeling safer and having strong grievance redressal mechanisms. Not that the platforms aren't doing enough, but I think we need an year-on-year conversation on this to make sure that, as new type of harms are emerging, platforms are taking enough action to deal with this.
Fair enough. Back to you, Ruchika.
We have one question from our audience. Umesh Dhoot is asking this, that as a parent, we are also involved too much on screen because of work or on social media or something else. However, a person who's observing us will form an own opinion which may be detrimental to parents. So how do we as parents ensure that this does not happen? So he's concerned about detrimental opinion of parents being formed. Anyone who would like to say that?
Can you come back again, Ruchika? Detrimental opinions of parents.
To parents, the people who may see parents consistently on screen, they may be on it for work.
Yeah.
Form a detrimental opinion of the parents. And how do we ensure that this doesn't happen? And if I can ask one more question, because 5 minutes are left. Abhishek Reddy asks, I understand the premise for banning social media. However, lack of social arenas and third spaces means only children who can afford such facilities will be able to access their social circle. Is such a blanket ban really needed, or can we do away with strict regulations and guidelines? It's a good point he's also raising. Can any of the panelists, would you like to take any of the questions?
I can come on the second question.
Please, Mr. Rizvi.
Yeah, if others are not, then on the second question, I think that's exactly what I was also alluding to in the beginning of the webinar, that, kids will move to lesser safer platforms if we ban social media. And not just social media platforms. They move to different forums, different communities, which are more harmful and which they will not demonstrate enough action to keep children safe. Social media is a great place for them to socialize, build communities. So obviously, if you restrict access, you are restricting them of accessing different people's opinions, and because you have a world out there on social media, you're getting access to not just India but all across the world. The trends, I'm someone who follows sports. There are people who follow fashion. There are people who follow politics. So that way, it's a melting pot of different ideas. So you don't want to restrict that world and that access to information. What you need to restrict is a very narrow thread of harmful content, and you need to make that platform safer. So if somebody else is misbehaving, action is taken appropriately. And that is the job of the platforms to demonstrate. So we should not limit access to kids, access to social media, so that to make sure that they are safe. What we have to do is make sure that the platforms are doing more and enough to keep them safe, right? So it should not be at the cost of kids' own access to information, right? So it's the responsibility of the government and the platforms to keep them safe, and they should do what is needed.
You also talked something very interesting about, updating and how it's not just social media, gaming and the way the technology is progressing. And Dr. Sahni brought in the point of AI. Who knows, 10 years down the line, I have 4-year-old children. If they grow up to 18, social media may be passe. And
Video
something
games,
else. Yeah.
video games platforms, Ruchika, are now becoming social media as well,
Yeah.
because the video game platforms also have communities. So kids are interacting with different gamers and talking to each other.
Yes.
So you may ban social media platform. Then what about these different gaming communities or different forums, for example?
Yes. Yes.
So it's
May I?
Yes, Miss Dr. Sahni, this will be our parting thoughts with you.
Yeah. So, like we are saying, gaming, there's AI, everything is moving so fast, the digital revolution, if you will. And we are all caught in that, right? And that's not, things are moving much. I'm getting a great echo, Ruchika. I don't know why, but I'll just,
Same.
I'll just finish and say that there's so much going on. The only thing we can do right now, and there's an explosion, by the way, even with the internet, there was an information explosion. We had to teach children how to navigate it, right? Similarly, with social media, there's an explosion. We have to teach them how to navigate it as parents, as educators, and so on and so forth. It will continue till whatever's happening. You're a young parent, so to you, I think importantly to stay in touch with what's going on, to stay in touch with your children in what's going on, and to learn to be a good role model, to answer your first question. And I think touched upon it earlier, that if parents, it depends on how parents use it too. Children are very attuned to what they're thinking. And most importantly, if parents are in touch with their children generally and see what's going on, then they are in better shape. And again, research is telling us that it's not the use of social media, but the excessive use of it that is the. I wish we could go back to the days of, someone mentioned binging, where, you had 2 hours of TV in the evening, and there were certain times when you had TV and then there was nothing. So in terms of digital fasting, maybe media producers, media houses, etc., should go back to certain hours when you have it and then you don't have it. Right. So they should exercise some digital fasting.
I think at last I will just conclude. I think along with the discussion about social media, I think the discussion should happen on how family can devote time on connectiveness. They should get connected to each other. They should know how to manage conflicts related to technology use, related to social media use every family is facing. If they work on connect and conflict resolution, I think what will happen is more communication. And the more communication definitely will become a protective factors to spend more time in the family context and judicious use of social media. I think 3C for every family works. I think we will find the answer for regulated and judicious use of social media.
Very important takeaways for on this subject for all our viewers. I think thank you so much, Dr. Sharma, Dr. Sahni, Mr. Rizvi, and Aashish for joining us today and for this very interesting exchange of ideas from the role of parents to the very important point of involving the children themselves in this discussion. I am enriched by this dialogue and I hope our viewers are too. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you.